Okay, a good moed. I'm going to start with the Gemara Megilla and Haftezevov Amud Aleph. It's on your handout. It's the right hand side of your handout. It's just a Rashi from Megillah Tezvov Amud Aleph. We celebrate Purim in Adar, obviously. Adar is the celebration of the Jewish victory in the war against the Goyim who wanted to attack them. The actual story of the hanging of Haman, before that, the Gezeira of Haman happened over Pesach. To get the exact days, we go to Gemara in Megillah Daf Tesvav, 18 lines from the bottom. The Gemara says, Vayavor Mordechai, Amarav Shehever Yom Rishon Shel Pesach B'Tainis. The Pasuk in Megillah says that after Haman decreed the Gezeira against the Jewish people, it says Vayavor Mordechai. Mordechai crossed over. The Gemara says Mordechai crossed over is miloshin, almost like an aveira. He did something that under normal circumstances would not be permitted. What did Mordechai do on that day that was really not permitted? The Gemara says, Shehever Yom Rishon Shel Pesach B'Tainis. He decreed that the first day of Pesach, yesterday, Jews should fast. And why should Jews fast? So Rashi explains. If you read the Megillah, it says that the decree was issued in the first month. The first month would be Nissan. The decree was issued on the 13th day of Nissan. That's when Haman sealed the Gezeira to Chas v'Shalom killed the Jews. That was Erev Pesach. 13th day of Nissan was when the decree was sealed. V'nitna das b'shushan, v'yudalid v'chamisha asa, v'shisha asa hisanu. On the 14th, the 15th, and the 16th day of Nisan, the Jews fasted. V'nitla u'v'shisha asa nitla Haman ba'erev. And on the 16th day of Nisan, which is today, Haman was hanged towards the evening. So this is how the Megillah works. On the 13th day of Nisan, Haman sealed the Gezeira Le'aleinu to kill the Jews almost 12 months later. In other words, the decree was issued on the 13th day of Nisan, that the following 13th day of Adar, the people have the right to kill Jews. So 13th of Nisan of the year, the decree went out for the following year, the 13th day of Adar, you can kill Jews, chas v'shalom. On the 14th day of Adar, which is Erev Pesach, the Jews fasted the first day. We know that Esther said we have to fast 3 days. Those 3 days were Erev Pesach, the 14th day of Nissan. Pesach itself, the Jews fasted the 15th day of Nissan. And today, the 16th day of Nissan, those are the 3 days the Jews fasted, that begging Hashem for mercy to rescind the Gezeira. So the pasuk says, Vayavor Mordechai. Mordechai sort of crossed over. He crossed the boundary. Jews are supposed to eat on Pesach. You have to eat matzah. Vayavor Mordechai. Mordechai did away with it. Nobody ate on Pesach yesterday, and nobody ate today. And today in the afternoon, you have a better view now? Okay. And on the 16th day, which is today, they hanged Mordechai towards the afternoon. It's important to understand the Nefillas Haman. It's brought down in Shulchan Aruch that today, the 16th day of Nissan, first day Chol HaMoed Pesach, you should have an extra food in order to celebrate the hanging of Haman. It's brought down in Shulchan Aruch. We're supposed to do something, make al-chayim, which Hashem will do, to celebrate the hanging of Haman. And this is important. The Ramban says in Parshas Beshalach, at the end of Parshas Beshalach, we have the war with Amalek. Amalek was the first nation to ever attack the Jewish people. The Jewish people left Mitzrayim, and Amalek was the first nation to attack the Bnei Yisrael. And Moshe Rabbeinu went up, and he davened, and he lifted his hands up to Shamayim, and he did a tremendous amount of work to help the Jews defeat Amalek. And the Ramban wants to know why Moshe Rabbeinu had to do all this work to defeat Amalek. The Jews just left Mitzrayim, and you daven to Hashem to save you. Moshe went up, Aaron and Hur were holding his hands up to Shamayim. It was a whole process to defeat Amalek. It wasn't so pashut. So the Ramban says that it's possible that Moshe Rabbeinu had to do this because Amalek is a descendant of Esav, and Esav got a bracha al char b'chatirchye, that Esav lives by the sword, and Hakol kol Yaakov got a bracha. Yaakov's destiny is that he's victorious with his voice, with his tefillah, but Esav got al char b'chatirchye. He lives by the sword. It's a bracha from Yitzchak. So Amalek, being a descendant of Esav, Moshe Rabbeinu had to put extra effort to deal with a descendant of Esav who lives by the sword. And then the Ramban says, Ki hamalchama min hamishpacha hazois hi harishoina v'acharoina liYisrael. The very first war and the very last war that the Jewish people will ever fight is against the nations of Esav. Ki Amalek mizera Esav. The very first war the Jews had to fight, Bereshis, was against Amalek as soon as they left Eretz Yisrael. And descendants of Esav burned down the second Beis Hamikdash. The fourth Golus, the fourth exile which we're in, is called the Golus of Edom or the Golus of Rome. So Edom is Esav. So it turns out that the first war we ever fought were descendants of Esav of Amalek. The last war we have to fight are with descendants of Esav. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu put tremendous effort into defeating Amalek and Esav. And b'mher Yameinu, when we defeat Esav and his progeny, we will have a Yeshua forever. We say it every day, that the The Ramban ends with amazing words. Everything that we saw Moshe and Yoshua do with Amalek during the first war, Moshe stood on the mountain and his hands were spread to Shamayim and Tefillah. So we need the prayers. Yoshua had an army, and Moshe Rabbeinu said, B'chalonu anoshim. Yoshua put together an army and fight. Now, why do you have to put together an army and fight? It's a good kasha. Why do you need an army to fight? Moshe Rabbeinu is on the mountain. His hands are spread out to Shamayim. Aaron and Hur are holding up his hands to Shamayim. Mizak Tehillim. What more do you need? What more do you need than Moshe Rabbeinu saying Tehillim? It's not enough. You had to have Moshe Rabbeinu said, Yeshua b'chalonu anoshim v'tzei lochem b'amalek. Gather up an army and go out and fight with swords and missiles and tanks. Go out, fight. I'm on top of the mountain saying Tehillim. You need to be at the bottom of the mountain with soldiers fighting. And the Ramban says exactly what Moshe, the Davener, and Yoshua, the general of the army, did at the first battle. Yasu Eliyahu uMashiach ben Yosef im Zaram, And that's the way it's going to end also. It's not going to end with Tehillim. It's going to end the same way it started, with a Moshe Rabbeinu saying Tehillim, commanding an army. That's the way it started, and that's the way it ends. Eliyahu will be like a Moshe Rabbeinu, and he'll be the Tehillim sayer. And Mashiach ben Yosef will be the general of the army, and he will run a battle. Al-Kaidis Ametz Moshe B'Dova. Therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu put so much effort into that first battle, because the first battle became the significant paradigm of the final battle. He wanted to make sure that Amalek was defeated, and he wanted to show us how to defeat Amalek, and that's with Tehillim on top of the mountain, and a general with soldiers at the bottom of the mountain. And as he did the first time, the Ramban says that's how it will be the last battle, Eliyahu and Mashiach ben Yosef b'mheir Yameinu. So we're going to take a look at the Gemara. Today is Nefillas Haman, Nefillas Amalek. So we have the picture in our minds now. The picture in our minds is that the Nefillas Haman happened on Pesach. We have to keep the cheshbon. On the 13th day of Nissan, Erev Pesach, on Erev Pesach, Haman sealed the Gzeira to kill Jews almost a year later, the 13th day of Adar. The very next day, the 14th day of Nissan, the Jews started fasting. The 15th, Pesach, they fasted, and the 16th of Nissan, today, they fasted. In the afternoon, Haman went up on the tree and was hanged. Now the Gemara says at the bottom of Daf Tesvav Amid Beis, the Gemara says, "V'layla hahu nodado shnas hamelech," and at a certain night, Achashverosh couldn't sleep. Now we're going to figure out what night Achashverosh couldn't sleep. Esther threw two parties. On the 15th day of Nissan, she threw party one. In other words, again, on the 14th, the Jews fasted, which is Erev Pesach. On the 15th, which is Pesach, the Jews fasted. And on that first day of Pesach, when the Jews were fasting, Esther invited Achashverosh to come to party one. And on that 15th day of Nisan, party one, Achashverosh said, "What can I do for you? I'll give you half the kingdom. What do you want?" And Esther said, "I'll tell you what I want. I don't want anything else today. I just want you to agree to come to my party tomorrow," which was the 16th. The night that Achashverosh couldn't sleep was the night between party one, the 15th of Nisan, and party two, the 16th of Nisan. That's the night that he couldn't sleep, which is last night. Last night, Achashverosh couldn't sleep. Yesterday was Esther party one. Esther said, "Please come tomorrow to party two." And last night, he couldn't sleep. Amar Rabbi Tanchum, Nodoshnas Malka Shaloil. Rabbi Tanchum says, we know that God's name is not mentioned in the Megillah Esther at all. Not a single time is God's name mentioned in the Megillah Esther because it's a Nes Nista. But we're told that wherever the name Melech appears in the Megillah, it's also a reference to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it says that night, Nodadosh Nas HaMelech, the Melech couldn't sleep. So Rabbi Tanchum says this is remez to God himself. God never sleeps. But there's a metaphor that it says in different in Tanakh, Tehillim, that when it appears to the human being that God's not watching over us, that we think of him as, is God asleep? And when God suddenly, quote unquote, begins to take care of us again, we say, oh, God finally woke up. So Balayla Hud Nodash Nas HaMelech, on that night, God, quote unquote, metaphorically woke up, and he decided he was now going to save the Jews from Haman. That's the first pshat in the Gemara. Rabbanan Amrei Nodadel Yoinim Nodu Tachtainim. And the Chachamim say it means that the angels in heaven were not allowing Achashverosh to sleep. They wanted Achashverosh to be up that night so that the whole story with Haman walking in, that whole story could occur, and the Malachim would not let him sleep. So the first shot is, quote unquote, metaphorically, God woke up. And the second shot is that the king, Ahasuerus, was awoken by the angels. Rava Omar, Rava says, Shnas HaMelech Ahasuerus Mamish. You don't need a drasha here, but Laila Hahud no, the Shnas HaMelech simply means Ahasuerus woke up. Why did he wake up? Because he was sort of having a bad dream. Naflolei milsa b'daide. Oma maide kamende zaminte Esther HaMalka. Dilma eitza kashakli luyadahu gavala mikdala. He said to himself, this is very strange. I was just at a party with my queen. And who else came to this party? There were two guests. Esther invited me, Achashverosh, and she invited Haman. And then she says, I don't want you to do anything. I just want you to come to another party the next day. So the king starts saying to himself, something strange is going on between Haman and Esther. They're probably plotting to kill me because there's no one else invited to these parties except for Achashverosh, myself, and Haman. And maybe there's a plot here to kill me. So he had a nightmare last night. Why do they want to kill me? Hada Omar, then Achashverosh said to himself, he woke up from his dream. They're trying to kill me, and he said to himself, can't be that someone wants to kill me, because someone in my inner entourage certainly still likes me. And if somebody heard of a plot, it's very hard to keep a plot secret. So if someone heard about the plot to kill me, I at least have a friend somewhere that would tell me. So therefore, no one wants to kill me. Hada Omar, then he said to himself, Dilma Ike Inish the Ovid Beiti Vusa V'loi Prate, Mishum Haki Mimne Inish Loi Mikuli. Achashverosh is thinking to himself. He says to himself, maybe in the past there was someone that saved me from a different plot, and I never rewarded him for saving my life. And now that people or somebody knows of a plot against me again, no one's going to tell me about it because I didn't reward the first person who saved my life. So no one wants to tell me. Therefore, miyad vayoyim l'hovia seva zechwenis divra yom vayu nekroyim v'lamich nekroyim me'aleim vayimotze kosov ksav mi'boile. So therefore, he ordered his servant to bring out his personal chronicles and see if someone saved his life in the past and he didn't pay him back. And it says vayimotze kosov. In the Gemara's medayik and diktuk, it should say ksav. He found something written in the past. Instead, it sounds from the pasuk, vayimotze kosov, he found it as if it's being written right now. So the Gemara says, Malamed, this teaches us, Shimshi moichek v'gavriel koisev. Shimshi is yenatayra tzatska. Shimshi is a real evil man. When Koresh HaParsi allowed the Jews years before to begin building the second Beis HaMikdash, he's the one that sort of created a blood libel against the Jews, and he convinced Koresh not to allow the Jews to continue to build the Beis HaMikdash. He's a Seuda Yisrael Yamak Shemoy. And he turns out to be the servant that evening. And he keeps on opening the book, the Chronicle book, and the Chronicle book gets to the page where it says, Mordechai HaYehudi saved the king. And every time he gets to that page, he takes out his eraser and he erases it because he doesn't want to have to read to the Achashverosh that Mordechai HaYehudi saved you. He keeps on erasing it. The Gavriel Kaisev. And Gavriel keeps on writing it back. That's why the pasuk says, Vayimotze Kasuv. And the servant Shimshi found it writing, not written, because every time he erased it, it got rewritten, present tense. And it's interesting that Gavriel is the one that's rewriting it. Usually we think of, when we say Kriya Shema Lamita, we say Mimini, Michael, or Mismoili, Gavriel. To my right is Michael, and to my left is Gavriel. The right is Chesed, Michael, and Michael is the Malach HaRachamim, and Gavriel is to our left, the Midas Hadid. We always think about Gavriel as Midas Hadid, but all over the Medrash and all over Shas, we once gave a shir about this. Gavriel, the Malach Hadin, is always the one that comes in to save Klal Yisrael. In numerous places, he comes in to save Klal Yisrael, because the purpose of the Midas Hadin is not to punish. The purpose of the Midas Hadin is to make sure that those who are deserving of reward get the reward. If everybody got online, as using a mashal of the Ramchal, although the Ramchal doesn't talk about lollipops, but if a king were giving away lollipops and everybody can get the lollipop, it doesn't make a difference whether you earned it or you didn't earn it. So everybody got free lollipops. That's called unabated chesed. But if the Midas Hadin comes and says, Reuven, get off the line, Rachel, get off the line, Shimon, get off the line, Shmelka, get off the line, we got to deal with you separately. You people have a separate cheshbon. Then the people that are left on the line, they understand they're getting lollipops because they earned it. The purpose of Midas Hadin in the world is chas v'sholem, not to punish. It's to make sure that the chesed line feels like they earned the chesed, and they feel good about themselves because they not only are they getting chesed, but they earned the chesed. So Gavriel is not a punishing malach. He's the one that makes sure that chesed is appropriately distributed in the world, and he keeps on rewriting in Achashverosh's chronicles that Mordechai Yehudi saved the melech. Amr of Asi, Darash of Shela Ishkva Tamrasa, Umaksav Shalamata Shalazahush Yisol in a Nimcha Ksav Shalamala Kol Shekeh. So Rav Shela Ishkva Tamrasa said, can you imagine if something is written downstairs on earth in a human book that has some benefit and good for the Jews in it, Hashem doesn't allow it to be erased. Certainly anything that's written in the chronicles and the books in heaven never gets erased when it's for the good of the Jewish people. So finally, Shimshi was forced to read. And it says, Mordechai Yehudi saved Achashverosh. And then the Melech asked him, no, so what reward did we give him? Remember, Achashverosh is self-conscious now because he thinks that Esther and Haman want to kill him because they want to take over. And the Melech is trying to figure out why no one's telling him about it. And he says to himself, no one's telling him about it because maybe in the past, someone plotted against me and someone saved me and I didn't pay him back. So Achashverosh asked Shimshi, no, what did we do for Mordechai Yehudi for saving my life? And Shimshi says, we didn't do anything for him. We didn't reward him. So then we have the whole parsha now, the amazing V'napoichu. The Megilla lives, the words V'napoichu live in the following psukim. Haman comes to the palace. It is now the morning of the 16th. It's today. It's the morning of the 16th. And Haman is in good spirits. Yesterday, he was at the party 1 with the Melech. And today, he's ready to go to party 2 with the Melech. But he told his wife and his advisors that he can't be happy. He's mamish zabrachin. He's broken because Mordechai doesn't bow down to him. So all of his advisors, his wife, they say to him, you know what, go to the king, get rid of this guy, tell him that you want to get rid of Mordechai. So Haman parades in as far as he can go to the palace, and he's ready to talk to the king about killing Mordechai. And that's this morning. He's going to try to convince the king. So the king asks him the exact question that Haman wants to hear. Rabbi says a Mordechai story. The exact question that Haman wants to hear this morning, Achashverosh asks him, what should I do if I want to truly favor a person, I want to give out a tremendous covet. What do you think I should do? Now, when you're an egomaniac like Haman, you start thinking about yourself. Remember who Haman is. Rabbi Kotel is a point in Tzaddik L'Vracha said, the Gemara in Chulin says, Moshe min HaTorah minayin, Esther min HaTorah minayin, Mordechai min HaTorah minayin. Is there a pasuk in the Torah that has a remes to Mordechai? Is there a pasuk in the Torah that has a remes to Esther? And the Gemara says, Haman min HaTorah minayin. Is there a remes for Haman in the Torah? The Gemara says yes. When God spoke to Adam Arishon after Adam and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadas Tov V'Ra, God said to Adam, Hamin ha'etz asher tzivisicha levilti achol mimeno acholta. Did you in fact eat from that tree that I told you not to eat from? So the letters are the same. Hamin ha'etz. Did you from that tree? It's spelled exactly like Haman. Hey mem nun sofit. Haman Hamin. It's a very nice play on words, Rabbi Kotel says, but the Gemara doesn't play words. What is the Gemara talking about that Haman is merumas in the Torah from the word Hamin ha'etz? So Rabbi Kotel said, that Adam Arishon owned the whole world. Him and Chava had everything. They had 2 kids, okay? But they owned everything. And the Rabban Shalom said you can have everything except for one tree. One tree do not eat from, the Eitz Hadas Tov V'Ra. You can have the whole world except one tree. And Adam Arishon couldn't hold himself back with Chava. And the whole world except for one tree, he couldn't hold himself back. And now you have Mordechai HaYehudi. You have Haman, you have Haman. And Haman has every single person in the world bowing down to him. The whole world belongs to him. And he can't live because one Jew doesn't bow down to him. Can you imagine such a person? He has everything except he doesn't have one person bowing down to him. Can you imagine a person who has every single currency in the world? There's no human being left in the world that has any money. This person, Shmelka, has every single US dollar and Canadian dollar and every German mark and the euro, everything. No one has any money left. This one person, Shmelka, has gathered together all the money in the world. And he hears episodes about some guy in Wisconsin, he still has a penny in his piggy bank. And es geht him in ganze Leben. He has to get on his private jet and fly to Milwaukee and find this guy and break his piggy bank because he has to have the last penny. Can you imagine such a person? That's Haman. Haman had the whole world bowing down to him, and he's not happy. He can't go to Achashverosh's party because there's one Jew that doesn't bow down to him. And he comes into Achashverosh this morning, the egomaniac that he is, and he comes in and he says, this is the perfect question. The Melech must be thinking about me. He wants to know how to honor someone who he loves, someone that has found favor in his eyes. There's no one that the Melech would want to honor more than me. Who do you think the very last person in his mind would be? Who would be the last person that Haman is thinking that the Melech is talking about? Mordechai. He's the last person. There on the list of possibilities, of course, Haman takes up the whole first page. The whole first page of possibilities of who does the king want to honor. Line 1 says Haman, line 2 says Haman. All the lines say Haman. On the flip side of the page, maybe he has a second name or a third name. But the one name that definitely doesn't appear on his sheet anywhere is the person the king is talking about is Mordechai, the last person. Every single word here is of an apoichu. So Melech, after Mordechai, after Haman says, I think you should give him the horse and your robes, etc. So the Melech says, V'aseh kein Mordechai. And the Melech says to Haman, exactly what you just said. Go take the royal robes and the royal horse and go and do exactly what you said to Mordechai. Now, can you imagine? It's a nes. It's mamash a nes happening right now that Haman didn't have a massive heart attack and drop dead right there. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the feeling that Haman, the rush of blood, the massive rush of blood to his head, as soon as he heard that it's not him, it's Mordechai, who he wanted to hang, is the person that he's going to trot through the streets like a shvug, and he's going to say, why didn't he have a massive heart attack and drop dead right there? The Rosh made a nest. He kept this Rosh alive because he had better plans for him. But a normal person would have had a massive heart attack and dropped dead right there. Amalei, Manu Mordechai. So he didn't have a massive heart attack, but he's having a panic attack. What does he say, Tachashverosh? Manu Mordechai. Mordechai, that's all the king said is do this to Mordechai. So Haman says, who's Mordechai? Amalei, so the Melech said, Hayehudi, the Jewish one. Amalei Tuva Mordechai Ikabudoi. So Haman said, Achashverosh, there are a lot of Jews who are named Mordechai. There's not just one. I don't know who you're talking about. It's a man in panic. Amalei Hayoshe B'Shah Melech. So Achashverosh said, it's the Haman HaYehudi that's sitting at the gate of the palace. You know who he is, stop the games. Amalei, so Haman said, Sagi le b'chad diskarti na b'chad nahara. We don't have to give him the royal robes. We don't have to give him the royal horse. He's just a Jew. He likes money. You know what we'll give him? We're going to give him like a bridge, or we're going to give him a city. In a city, he'll be able to collect taxes. We're going to give him a bridge. He'll be able to set up a toll booth. He's a Jew. He doesn't need the horse. He doesn't need the royal robes. Give him something he can make money off of. Amalei Achashverosh said, Hainama Havle. That's a very good idea. Now get the horse and get the robes and give him a city and give him a bridge. Al tapel dover mikol asher dibart. Ve'ika Haman salvush ves hasus. Haman took the royal robes and the horse. Also ashkeche the yasu rabbonin kamei umachvele hilchas kamitza rabbonin. He came towards the Beis Medrash of Mordechai HaYehudi. Now, what is Mordechai HaYehudi learning today with his students? What's he learning today? Today's the 16th day of Nissan. What happened on the 16th day of Nissan when the Beis HaMikdash stood? We started counting Sfiras HaOmer last night. And what did they bring today? The Minchas HaOmer. The flour wasn't flour, it was from barley, but it was barley flour offering that was done in the Beis HaMikdash. When you make a flour offering the Beis HaMikdash, it's a very difficult avoid. There's something called kamitza. You have to take a certain amount of flour in your palm, and the kohen has to make a kamitza. He has to hold flour, open his pinky, and a certain amount of flour falls out. And there's a whole set of rules about what part of the flour is consumed on the Mizbeach and what part of the flour can be eaten by the Kohanim. But today was the day that they did that kamitza for the Minchas Omer. So what does Haman find Mordechai teaching his students in the Beis Medrash? He's teaching them Hilchas Kamitza. Why? Because it's the 16th day of Nissan. Kivan the Chazia Mordechai, the offer, what I just said is Rashi. Kivan the Chazia Mordechai, the offer, Lekivle Vasusa Miyachad V'yodei Mirsis. When Mordechai saw Haman coming close to the Beis Medrash with a horse, Mordechai got scared. So Mordechai said to the students, everybody run away, everybody go hide, because Haman of Russia is coming to kill me, and I don't want him to hurt anybody else. Out. That moment, Mordechai put on his talis and started davening. Also Haman v'yosav le'kamayu v'oirech adasolek Mordechai l'tzlose. Haman saw that Mordechai was davening, and he waited till he finished. It's a tremendous lesson. Haman here is a Russia, terrible Russia. and he sees that Mordechai is davening, and he doesn't want to interrupt him. He waits till he's finished davening. Yena Russia understands you don't interrupt somebody else when they're davening. So he waits till he finishes davening. Amalel b'mayaskisu. So Haman said, what exactly were you studying with your students? Amrule bisman shebeis hamikdash kayim man demenade mincha ma'isla mole kumtze the sultan eskapele. So Mordechai said, when the Beis Hamikdash stood, a person was able to bring some flour to the Beis Hamikdash, and God would forgive him for all his sins. That's the power of the Jewish people. They can come to a Beis Hamikdash from Erev Yameinu, offer a little flour from Erev Yameinu. You know, everybody talks about the getting ready of Pesach for Korban Pesach. And it didn't happen this year. We talked 2 weeks ago about Rav Hutner's the Maimon of Pachad Yitzchak, about the sour taste that's left in our mouth when we have a Tzipiyah Yeshua. We expect Mashiach to come. We expect him to come every second, and it doesn't happen. It leaves sort of a sour taste in our mouth about whether he's coming at all, chas v'sholom. Rav Hutner, as a Maimon, in the Maimon, he actually uses the word sour taste. But we have to be Mitzapel Yeshua. We continue to be Mitzapel Yeshua. The Tzipisa Yeshua is like Rabbi Akiva's stone. Rabbi Akiva became Rabbi Akiva because he saw water dripping on a stone. And every little drip made a little bigger dent in the rock. And you couldn't tell that anything was happening to the rock until finally the rock cracked. But it took time for the rock to crack, but every little drip made its own impact on the rock. And the Ramchal also gives a marshal about someone that's chopping down a tree. Every time he takes the axe and gives a chop in the tree, he looks at himself and he's sweating, and he says to himself, wow, I was mama schwitzing. I gave such a good hacking to the tree, and the tree didn't fall. And he builds up his kaiches again, and he gives another hack, and the tree doesn't fall. And he keeps on hacking and hacking. And finally, that last hack knocks down the tree. And every little tzipisa Yeshua, everything that we did and we have done and we continue to do, and all the tzipiyah and the looking forward to Mashiach of this year and Erev Pesach, and the continue looking forward to Mashiach, is like chopping down that big tree that eventually will timber over. Chas v'sholom, nothing goes to waste. It's all a koyach that builds up, and it builds up and builds up until it becomes such a torrential rainfall, such a torrent of power that Mashiach has to come. So Mordechai told Haman, we were studying in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, you can bring a little flour, just a tiny little flour, and people were forgiven for their sins. And that's what I was teaching. It was the 16th of Nissan. Haman said, it's unbelievable. You're starting about a tiny little amount of flour. And I was willing to pay the king 10,000 silver coins to kill Jews. The king didn't take it, but I was ready to pay 10,000 silver coins to pay for the right to kill the Jews. And your little flour is obviously more powerful than 10,000 silver coins. Amalek. So Mordechai said to Haman, Russia, you Russia, Eved Shekonim Nechosim, Eved Lami or Nechosim Lami. It's a whole story. We won't go into it now. The truth of the matter is that Haman was a slave to Mordechai. And therefore, whatever money he had really belonged to Mordechai. And therefore, when he talks about, I was ready to pay 10,000 silver coins to kill the Jews, he's not talking about his own money. It was Mordechai's money because Haman was a slave to Mordechai. Amalei, at any rate, Haman says to Mordechai, Kum levush hani mani urchav haisusi deboilecha malka. Haman says to Mordechai, put on the royal robes, ride the royal horse, because the king wants to honor you. Amalei, so Mordechai said, Lo yachilna ad ailani lebeibani ve'eshka lemazid le'avor ura. 1 second. I'm not putting on the robes. I'm not getting on the horse. I've been fasting for 3 days. I haven't taken a shave or a haircut because of this business that you want to kill the Jews. And it's not right to get on the king's horse without taking a nice shower. And it's not nice to be taken through the streets to be honored by the king unless I get a nice haircut. Esther set up the plan. All the barber shops were closed, and all the bathhouse keepers had the day off. So there's nobody that can give Mordechai a haircut and a shave, and there's nobody that can take care of the bathhouse. Ayla ihu lebebani va'asrei va'azl va'aisi zuz mebezer v'kashakale bazi. No choice left. Haman's got to do what he's got to do because Ahasuerus told him to. So Haman goes home and gets a pair of clippers, and he gives Mordechai a haircut. And there's nobody to take care of the bathhouse. He needed a bathhouse keeper. Have fresh towels, have warm water. Guess who becomes the bathhouse keeper? Haman becomes the bathhouse keeper. From the guy who walked in the morning and wanted to ask Ahasuerus, can I kill Mordechai? And he thought that the king wanted to honor him. He now became a bath boy and he became a barber. And as he's giving Mordechai a haircut, he's giving kvitch. Oy, oy, oy. Amalei amaika misnachas. So Mordechai said to Haman, what's the kvitching about? Amalei gaved avachoshle lamalka mekalo ravronoi hashel shavir belana v'sapa. How could this happen to me? I'm the second most powerful man in the world. And somehow I became a barber and a bathhouse keeper. You understand why I'm kvitching? Amalei Russia. So again, Mordechai says to him, you evil person. I know you. We go back a long time. You are the barber in the village of Kartsum. This is nothing new to you. Stop kvitching. You're a barber. Tana Haman Saper Shal Kfar Kartsum Hoy Es Mushtayim. Shon Gemara says, in fact, he was a barber for 22 years until he sort of killed his way up the totem pole and became the second in command. Otherwise, he's stam a shmendrik barber. Bossa de Shaklinu Lamasya, after he gave him the haircut, Lavshinu Lamone, he dressed up Mordechai in the royal robes. Amalei Sak Urcha. So Haman says, all right, mount the horse. Amalei Lo Yachil de Chashoiche Lo Yumet Hanisa. So he said, so Mordechai said, I'm very sorry. This is the third day I'm fasting. I don't have the strength to mount a horse. So what do we do now? Gachin v'solik. So Haman had to bend down and become like a step. He was bent down. He became a step stool. Kisolik boyetbe. So now his bottom is sticking out. So Mordechai gives him a swift kick in his bottom. Now that Haman's bottom is finally sticking out, he gives him a swift kick in his bottom. Amalei. So Haman says to Mordechai, this is already not right. You turned me into a barber. You turned me into a bathhouse boy. But this is already not right. Like Sivlachu, doesn't it say in your own Torah, it's mashma, you see this all over Gemaras, that the Goyim, they like to learn Chumash, Nevi'im, Ksuvim, although there's no writing yet. We don't know when it was written, how he knows this, but it says, bin a full oyev al tisma. Jewish people don't take pride when their enemies fall. Jewish people don't take pride. They have to defeat their enemies. They defeat their enemies. But after they defeat their enemies, they don't do a hula dance around the dead bodies. It's not a Jewish thing. So you defeat your enemies and you move on. What's this business now with kicking me in the backside? Amalei hani mili b'Yisrael. So Mordechai said, that's true of Jewish people. We won't go into this. There's a whole sugya. Aval b'dit chuksiv. But people like you know what it says? Va'ata al b'masei sidroi. And you will step on them. You're the person that it says in the Torah, you will step on them. Now there's an unbelievable, amazing, fascinating sfasemis here on the Gemara. The Gemara in different places says, less milid le'remisa by raisa. Anything that ever happened, anything that's happening today to us, and anything that will ever happen in the future is written somewhere in the Torah. Where does it say in the Torah this story? Where does it say in the story this story? That there'll be a yid that will kick a goy in the backside. So the Gemara says, it's a pasuk in the Torah, Va'ata alba masei ma'sidva, you will step on your enemies. Who said those words? Moshe Rabbeinu. Where did Moshe Rabbeinu say those words? In V'zois HaBracha. When did he say those words? These are the very last words that Moshe Rabbeinu ever said. Va'ata alba masei ma'sidva. Because the pasuk after that begins talking about Moshe's death. These are Moshe Rabbeinu's last words, Va'ata alba masei ma'sidva. And the Moshe Rabbeinu is now giving us the full history, the full breadth of Jewish history, from the beginning of Bereshis to the Va'ata alba masei ma'sidva, you will step on your enemy. And who is this enemy? Haman. We just read in the Ramban that the first Mulchama was with Amalek. The last Mulchama is Amalek. And that's where the world history, as we know it, will end with stepping on, the feeding and stepping on Amalek and his progeny. So Moshe Rabbeinu's last words are, Va'ata alba masei ma'sidva, you will step on your enemies, just like Haman. And that's what we will do with Haman's descendants, Va'ata alba masei ma'sidva. Vayikra lefanov, and now Mordechai is up on the horse, and he's being taken through the streets of Shushan Abira. And he's parading Mordechai, and Haman is shouting, this is what the king wants to be done to a person that the king wants to honor. Now again, you would think that by this time, Haman definitely needs to have a heart attack. I mean, the man needs to have a heart attack. The man first stood Achashverosh in the morning, and instead of him getting the honor, not only doesn't he get the honor, and he doesn't get permission to kill Mordechai, he's commanded to put Mordechai and parade him on the streets. Svelte to a heart attack. Then he becomes a bath boy, and then he becomes a barber. Then he gets kicked in his backside, and he still doesn't have a heart attack. And now he's parading Mordechai in the streets like a shvug, mamish like an Eved Knani. He's running him through the streets, and Mordechai Yehudi's on the horse, and he's schlepping him through the streets. He's saying, this is what the king wants to do to someone the king wants to honor. And he still doesn't have a heart attack. Why? Because there's more in store for him. Ki have a noket va'oza b'shvila de behaman, chazite barate de kaima igra, sovra hay de rochav avur by the misne, ha-miske kame Mordechai. Shokla cited the base akise v'shadisa aresha davur. Dola eina v'chozes davur hi nofla me'igel aro mesa. So they're coming to the streets, and they come down the street, whatever the street is, that Haman has his home. And his daughter is proudly on the roof because she knows that Papa went out in the morning to talk to Achashverosh. And what was he going to talk to Achashverosh about? Killing Mordechai. So this young lady has a simple assumption. Papa is on the horse, and Mordechai is schlepping the horse, and Mordechai, in preparation of himself being executed, first is parading Haman through the street and saying, Papa's on the horse, he's being honored by the king. And she wants to be fully prepared for this. So she took the old-time toilet bowl, which was a bucket. People kept buckets in the house. So she took her toilet bowl, and she went up to the roof, and she was ready, right? She took what we would call her grogger. We take groggers to shul on Purim. She took her toilet bowl to the roof, and she's ready. And the horse comes down the street, and she thinks the person who's schlepping the horse is, who's schlepping the horse? Mordechai. So she dumps the toilet bowl on Mordechai. But it turns out it's not Mordechai, it's Haman. When she realizes that she spilled her toilet bowl on Papa, she fell off the roof and she died. And that's what it means when it says in the Megilla, Vayoshev Mordechai el Shah HaMelech. It says Mordechai went back to the gates of the palace. Mordechai went back to the gates of the palace. He put back his sackcloth on, and he continued fasting. Today, the Megillah says Haman went back home, and he was an oval. What was he an oval from? His daughter just died. And his head was all messed up. That's what the Megillah says. His head was dirty, and he was an oval. He was an oval because his daughter just died, and his head was messed up because his daughter spilled the toilet bowl on his head. Oval al bidoy v'chafui roish al she'iroloi. Vayisaper Haman lezeres ishto v'cholav oyava kolu oyava v'kolu chachamav am Rabbi Yochanan kol hoyim edov v'achok mafil b'mus olam dekachav. Imi zera Yehuda Mordechai amrulei imishah shvatim kosi yacholklei v'mishevet Yehuda v'nyom Ephraim nashlei cholklei Yehuda chsiv yotre boy ve'vecha inach tesiv behul of the Ephraim v'nash oires v'osecha kinafol tipo lefonu. So his wife Zeresh, we won't say anything about wives here, but she's the one that originally gave him this idea to go to the king and ask permission to kill Mordechai. And now he comes home with a toilet bowl on his head, and now the wife has a new eitzah for him. So we always take advice from our wives, but you got to make sure that you got to listen to the advice very carefully if it's also rational. Didn't do so well here, Haman. So he now has a toilet bowl on his head. His daughter is dead, and now his wife has more advice for him. And she says to him, there are certain Jews that you can't defeat. There are certain Jews you can't defeat. And she tells him which Shvatim you can't defeat. You cannot defeat a Yid that comes from Yehuda. You cannot defeat a Yid that comes from Ephraim, Binyamin, or Menashe. I say yashkoyach to my wife. Haman's thinking probably to himself, she didn't tell me this beforehand. If she had told me I should check, I would check. If she had told me beforehand, you can't set up with Yehuda, Menashe, Ephraim, and Binyamin, I would have checked out Mordechai's Yichus, and I would have found out that he's both from Yehuda and from Binyamin. I wouldn't start up with him. But she didn't tell me to check the Yichus. Now I got the toilet bowl on my head. Now she has this wonderful advice for me. What Shevet does he come from? And now she says, because if he comes from one of these Shvatim, now his wife Zeresh Yamak Shema says, Kinofel Tipolofano. You should know if he comes from one of these 4 Shvatim, you're finished. Shkoyach for the advice. Dosh Rabbi Yehuda Bar Biloi, Shtei Nefillas Halo Lama, Amloi Umazum Mashul Av Mashul Kechavim, Shen Yod and Yod Adok, Shem Oil Allah Kechavim. B'Sarisia Melech Higiu Vayafilu. Now what are we up to now? Haman's in one big mess. He's big mess. He had the toilet bowl thrown on him. But what's on his calendar for today, the 16th day of Nissan? He has to still go to party number 2. He's got to show up at party number 2 with Achashverosh. So it says the servants of the king came to Haman's house and they rushed him to get to the party. Kinam kanu aniva ami, kinatza shova b'nesek hamelech, amuloy tzar ze einoi shova b'nesek shel melech, ikna b'vashti v'kotla, hashta ikna b'didim u'boin l'migdali. So they have Achashverosh and Esther have this discussion. No, what do you want? Today's the second party. Tell me what you want. So she said, listen, there's somebody out there that wants to kill me. He wants to kill my people. And I'll tell you the truth, he simply doesn't like queens. This is the guy that gave you advice to kill your first queen, Vashti. And this is the guy that gave you advice to kill me and my people. He doesn't like queens. Now, Achashverosh is machlekes the Gemara earlier if Achashverosh is a tippish, if he's stupid, or he's a chacham, or he's a smart guy. There's a machlekes the Gemara whether he's stupid or smart. But from a lot of Gemaras, it's mashma like he's a stupid guy. He doesn't have a press secretary. Esther says to him, look, the guy that's causing problems here is the guy that killed your first queen. And now he wants to kill me, your second queen. Now, Achashverosh knows who killed his first queen. It's not unless, a couple of years went by and he's senile. He doesn't remember anymore. But it's not so long ago that a certain guy said, why don't you kill Vashti? So he doesn't remember, or he's playing stupid. Vayomer HaMelech HaChashverosh Vayomer Esther HaMalka Vayomer Lamali Amr Avro B'Chilei Dei Turkman Kiven Amr Dei Shol Chasin Miyad Vayomer Esther HaMalka. So the pasuk says Vayomer HaMelech HaChashverosh Vayomer Esther HaMalka. The pasuk says twice Vayomer. What's the twice Vayomer? So the Gemara says that Achashverosh had an interesting Shalom Bayis minhag. For all the years that he was married to Esther, which at this point is about 5 or 6 years. He's already married to Esther 5 or 6 years, and he never spoke to her directly. He refused to speak to her directly. He spoke through an interpreter. He didn't want to address her directly. Why? Because she never told him Hayichas. He fell in love with her beauty, but he never knew what nation she came from. So as far as he knew, he had married a beautiful commoner, and it was beneath him to speak to a commoner. It's okay to marry her, but you, God forbid, wouldn't talk to her because maybe she'd be a commoner. So 6 years they're married, 6 years they didn't talk. We don't know how well that marriage worked out so far, but they didn't talk for 6 years except through an interpreter. And now Achashverosh says to her, listen, I've asked you so many times, where do you come from? Tell me where you come from. And she explains to him she's Jewish and that Haman wants to kill her and her people. And not only is she Jewish, but she's a descendant from Chol HaMoed. She's royalty. Ah, royalty. Now I can talk directly to you. So the pasuk in the Megilla says, Vayomer Achashverosh Vayomer Esther HaMalka. Ah, get rid of the interpreter. Now we can talk directly to each other. And the Melech, playing stupid, the Melech says, who is this person that wants to kill you? Esther ish tzav oyev Haman hara hazeh amra belaza malamed shois machava klape Achashverosh u'ma'amalach v'sorta yodeh klape Haman. Esther was honest to the end. Esther raised up her hand. Achashverosh said, who's the one that wants to kill you? And she raised up her hand and she was going to point back at Achashverosh. You, are you so stupid you don't know who's trying to kill me? You gave him the ring. Don't you remember who's trying to kill a whole nation? Is there any other nation in the 127 nations here that you decreed and allowed to decree to be killed? No, there's no other nation. I'm the only nation of Jewish people. How stupid can you be? And she's ready to point to Achashverosh. A malach came and pushed her hand to point to Haman. It says the Melech got up, and the Melech got so angry when he heard it was Haman, he went into his garden. And then he says he came back from his garden. So the Gemara says the same way that when he left the palace to go to the garden, he was very angry. He was also very angry when he came back to the palace. What was going on here? This is a real bad day. People think they have bad days. Imagine waking up in the morning, going to the king's palace, being the second most powerful person in the world, and expecting permission to kill your enemy. And then you're told that you're going to be the barber, the bathhouse man, you get kicked in the backside by your enemy. And now you got a problem in the palace because the queen just said that you're the guy that wants to kill her. So this is what we consider a bad day. The Chashon, when everybody wants to say, I've had a bad day, think about this Gemara. Nobody's had a bad day like Haman had a bad day. So what happened here? The Oz of Asher from Malchi Ashoris didn't like a Gavi, he went down into his garden, and he has beautiful trees in his garden. And he sees people are chopping down his trees, his favorite trees. And who are these people? They're Malachim. And he says to them, what in the world are you doing? These are my favorite trees. They say, yeah, Haman told us to chop them down. So now he's even more infuriated with Haman. So he goes back into the palace. Oslo Bey say, he goes back into the palace, and the Megillah says, for Haman noifel alamita. Haman is falling on the bed or the couch upon which Esther is sitting. Noifel nofmi boile, amalez malamish malach v'piolel. The Gemara says that a malach came and pushed Haman to fall on Esther. So the Melech said, what is going on here? I have no peace from this guy. I go into the garden outside, he's chopping my trees. I come in the inside, he's falling on my queen. So the king said to Haman, what are you trying to do? You're trying to take away my queen in my own palace. It's one thing you want to have an affair with my queen in a hotel somewhere. But in the middle of my palace, you can have an affair with my queen. I've had enough of you. So Chavoina says, oh, you want to get rid of this guy? He put up a stick or a tree near his house, and he wanted to hang Mordechai on the tree. I have an idea for you, Melech. Why don't we hang him up on that tree? Now, this is the end of it, almost there's more, but this is almost the end of an apachu. He put a tree in the ground, and who was supposed to be on that tree? Mordechai. He has no idea that when he plants the tree or puts up the stick, that he himself is preparing the stick for himself. Then Gemara talks about whether Chavoina was a harasha, and then it says, "V'chamas hamelach shachacha." It says the anger of the king eased. Shachacha sounds like double. He is angered double twice. Shtei shachichas halol lama. Why does it have two easing of anger? Achash HaMalka shaloylam v'achash halachashverosh. The Rabbi Shalom anger eased with the death of Haman, and the anger of Achashverosh eased with the death of Haman. Ramila Achashel Esther v'Achashel Vashti. Another pshat is that Achashverosh was doubly angry because now he realized that Haman had been responsible for executing Vashti and now tried to execute Esther. He was angry at both events, and the double anger subsided. So we now know that the Gezerah was on the 13th of Nissan. On the 14th, the 15th, and 16th are the 3 days of Tainus Esther. On the 15th was party one. The night of the 15th, last night, between the 15th and the 16th, is Balaylahu, Nadadoshnas Hamelach, the king couldn't sleep. They bought the book of Chronicles. The morning of the 16th, this morning, Haman came in and wanted to ask permission to kill Mordechai. V'naprechu, everything got turned around as we just saw it. And Rashi says that late in the day, at Esther's party number 2, which happened later today, Haman went through this process of the Esther revealing that she's Jewish and Haman wants to kill her. And Haman, Malachim came and said, Haman is trying to chop down your trees. He's chopping down your trees. And he came in and Haman was falling on Esther. And Chavoina says, hang him up and kill him. And today was the death of Haman. Before we drink a l'chaim, I wanted to just read a piece of Friedlander's Pirish in the Das Tavunos. We talked about the Gilui HaYichud, everything that happens in the world from the beginning of time to the end of time, everything that's happening today is for Gilui HaYichud, to prove that Hashem is the unique, only Shalit. He's the only one that's the boss, the sovereign that controls everything. And for all the times that people thought that they were in control of the world through their technology and through their scientific innovations, v'chulu, Ribono Shel Olam is teaching us a lesson. It's a hard shear to listen to, but he's teaching us that he runs the world. And Rav Friedlander, on this concept of Gilui HaYichud, says the following. It's on page Mem 40 of Rav Friedlander's print of the Das Tavunos. He says, "Mitoich Maseh HaTov HaRav, afilu mitoich rishos harshoyim tispateach hagula." Even through the evil acts of Rishoyim, even through evil, is a passageway to come to the Geula. Letzayin kama dugmois lebinyan av leklal shakadosh baruch hu mishtamish b'maiser rosh la'odem ilahoitz lifalas etzayim. I'm going to give just a few examples to show you how Kadosh Baruch Hu uses the evil acts of man to actually bring about the Geula. Ache Yosef Ratzu l'sakalas chalmoisav alidei mechivasai, alidei zeh neskal gokiyim chaloimai shenasa melech b'mitzrayim. Yosef had these dreams that he's going to be king and he's going to rule over his brothers. So what did his brothers do? You know how we're going to make sure he never becomes king to rule over us? We're going to sell him to Mitzrayim. He'll be a slave there. We'll never hear from him again. He'll never be able to rule over us again. What was the end of the story? That by selling him to Mitzrayim, which the whole purpose was to make sure he would never rule over them, they actually made him the ruler over the whole world, and he ruled over them. They had to come beg him for food. Paroi goza lahashel es kol ben hayiloid hayayra. Gedei lahomus es meshichin shel Yisrael she'amad livalei. Vayde gzeirezu niskalgel shebita avias Moshe lebeisai v'yas Megilla b'chekem. It's Pesach. Paroi got a message from his itzdaganinim. He got a message from his stargazers that on a particular day, a Jewish, they weren't sure if it was Jewish or not, but on a particular day, his Atzdaganinim, turns out it was the 7th day of Adar, his Atzdaganinim told him that today a child was born who's going to take the Jews out of Egypt. So what did Paro do? Rashi says that there was one day that Paro decreed that every boy, even an Egyptian boy, every boy born today must be put into the Nile and must drown in the Nile. I don't know if it's a Jewish boy, if it's a Gentile boy that will become a convert. I want every single boy born today thrown into the Nile. And on that Zion Adar, they threw him into the Nile. So what happened by throwing him into the Nile? His own daughter, Batya, finds him in the Nile, and his own daughter brings Moshe home. Where? Where does Moshe Rabbeinu grow up? Whose house gives him food and shelter? Paro. Paro made a gzeira to kill all the boys on Zion Adar, and the little boy who he really wanted to kill, his daughter brings home to him, and he raises him in the palace with food and shelter. And that's the boy Moshe Rabbeinu takes out of Mitzrayim. Haman, Rav Friedlander says, Yoetz la'arages Vashti, v'yidizeh hiskagel adova shehum lecha Esther, ayedei atzosei u'v'moy yodov hirkivis Mordechai lasus, u'shebones h nitla v'chadoyim. Haman ended up doing two things in the Megillah, making sure that Vashti got executed. That was his eitzah. And the other thing he did in the Megillah was he wanted to kill the Jews. But he himself shot himself in the foot because by giving an eitzah to execute Vashti, the queen's throne became open. Who takes over the throne? Esther. Who's the one that saves the Jews from his plan? Esther. So Haman himself, by planning to kill the Jews, he actually planned also to save the Jews. There's no way to escape every evil act that's done. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does of Anapoichu, Yosef's brothers, they made him the king. Paroi ended up raising Moshe in his own household, and Haman made sure that the throne was empty for Esther so that she can defeat Haman's own plan. Haman planted the tree upon which he himself was hanged. They see the Rebbeinu Shalom runs a world that even from evil, the Rebbeinu Shalom runs a world that even from the evil, it's v'napoichu, and only good things come out of it. And we should be zeicha that from everything that's happening and everything that has happened, everything that will continue to happen, we should be able to see it in its true light. We should be able to see v'napoichu. We sing on Purim v'napoichu, but as we just learned in the Gemara, the v'napoichu is today. Today's the real v'napoichu. Haman turned into a baba, he turned into a bath boy, he got kicked in the backside. Today is the v'napoichu. So we just finished. When you learn, it's as if you're doing. The Gemara says at the end of Menachos, if you learn Hilchos Karbonis, like you bring a carbon. We just learned the Cheshbon and how Haman was hanged. We mamish just hanged Haman. And like the Ramban says at the end of Pash B'Shalach that we started with, whatever Moshe Rabbeinu and Yeshua did with Amalek in the beginning, we're going to do with Amalek in the end. And we just did a little part of it, maybe a big part of it. We just hanged Haman again. And again and again and again, every year we hang Haman until Eliyahu and Mashiach ben Yosef come and do that final chop in the tree and knock it down altogether. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam boirei pri hagefen. L'chaim, l'chaim. All the Jews that need refuah should have refuahs. All the Jews that need Yeshua should have Yeshuas. All the Yid that need Nechamas should have Nechamas. There's a sugi in the Gemara. Sugi in the Gemara, it's in Rosh Hashanah, Sukkah. What happens if Mashiach comes on the 16th day of Nissan? The sugi in the Gemara. If Mashiach comes today, forget about he can't come Erev Shabbos. We talked about that last week. Forget about that. He comes today. And Shaili Gemara, what do you do with Chadash? Can you bring the korban oimah today? And can you eat Chadash? Or do you have to wait till the afternoon? There's a whole takonos Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai about Meheri Yibana Beis HaMikdash. There's a whole sugi in the Gemara, Meheri Yibana Beis HaMikdash. What do we do on the 16th day of Nissan? Mashiach comes, there's a Beis HaMikdash, you bring the oimah. How do you bring the oimah? It's one of the takonos of Yochanan ben Zakkai about Meheri Yibana Beis HaMikdash for today, the 16th day of Nissan. There's still plenty of time for the Rebbeinu Shalom to send the Beis HaMikdash to us today, plenty of time. And he can do it keherafayim. And nobody should have a sour taste in their mouth that we waited Erev Pesach and we were waiting for him to come and he didn't come. We gave a big chop in the tree the way we made Pesach. The way we made Pesach this year under unbelievable circumstances was such a chop in that tree of evil, she'ein kamayu, that hasn't been seen in a long time. Tremendous chop in the tree. And then the Nefillas Haman today is another chop in the tree. And the tree is going to topple over. And when the tree and the rishas topple over, we're going to see the Beis HaMikdash, B'mheira v'yameinu. And we should all, again, Klal Yisrael, should be zeicha to the refuahs, the corona, from all other sicknesses. Those who don't have it, Chashom, shouldn't get it. And all the finer mention, the good people in the world, all the good people in the world, they're God's creations. They should all have refuah shalemas, and God should protect them. L'chaim, l'chaim, should have a wonderful Chol HaMoed, a wonderful Shabbos, a wonderful Yom Tov. And again, Shmuel, thank you very much for making this possible.
Amen.
Chaim.
You would have a good time.
Chaim.
Thank you for beautiful share.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Don't be cheap on. Don't be cheap. Don't be cheap
Thank
on
you,
the
Rabbi.
wine. Thank you. Don't be cheap on the wine. As many l'chaims as you want. It's all right. It's a time for l'chaim. The Amshina Rebbe once said. The Amshina Rebbe once said one of the reasons God created wine is so that two Jews should be able to drink and bless each other l'chaim. L'chaim, l'chaim.
I'm getting the wine out. You're drinking, sweetie.
Shabbos, everybody enjoy. Sei gesund. Shabbos. How are you? Wonderful. Good to see you. You're in Sfas.
Yes. L'chaim and good Shabbos from Sfat.
L'chaim and good Shabbos from Beit Shemesh to Sfas.
Good Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbos. V'shanas Yaakov tzahol v'samecha Hiroi sam yachad techeles Mordechai Yeshu asam Yisrael l'netzach Pesach v'asam b'chol davadon Le'odiyah shekol g'becha V'yevoshu v'yikol l'netzach V'yevoshu v'yikol Tzadikim begam Chamoy Nazach Ulatay Aruim Kol HaShoyim Beruchim Kol HaTzadikim begam Chamoy
la la ya ya ya.
L'chaim, l'chaim, kol shalom.
L'chaim.
Thank you, Rabbi Lubling.
Sei gesund.
Shabbat shalom.
Shekach.
Gesund und stark.
Want to do it now, or you gonna thank him first? What? So you do it now. Huh?
Shabbos, Moshe.
Hey, Reuben.
Moshe.
Hi, have a good Shabbos. Great to see you.
No, it said somebody.
Good to see you. Good Shabbos.
My sound's okay. I'm getting the wine.
Here it is.
Ellie what?
Oh, Shay. Oh,
Denny.
yeah. I'm Reuben. getting the wine. Reuben.
Yes. L'chaim.
Yeah.
L'chaim.
There's no glass. Any glass.
Hag Pesach, Tasha, v'Sameach.
How was the Seder? Great?
Wonderful.
Yeah, me too. It was like, wow.
Have a good
Shabbos and good Moed. Yeah, good
Shabbos,
Moed.
good Moed.
All the best. Wonderful.
L'chaim.
Chaim. Where's the wine? It's in the other room.
Come over here.
I'm coming. Hi.
So how did you like the Seder?
It was really good to have just like a private Seder. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, very meaningful.
Yeah, and we finished like 12.
When did we finish? Round one? Round one.
I know it. You know Yiddish. What do you want me to tell you? Well, we finished by 12. We had a minion downstairs. I mean, we didn't go down. I was on my merpeset, the neighbor on his merpeset downstairs. They had 5 people staying by them. So we had 10 people.
Great.
And today too, we had davening, 8:30.
Very nice.
We should all be gesund.
Amen.
Gesund and,
good health.
Simcha.
Mashiach.
Let me get the wine.
L'chaim.
All right.